Well, the next training aid we'd like to discuss is an easy stop. And an easy stop is probably one of the most popular training aids with trainers of cutting horses and reining horses. Not every horse needs an easy stop, but every once in a while you'll come across a horse that just won't put out that extra effort to bend his back and really get into the ground and hold a hard stop. And that's where the easy stop comes into play. It's really a good way to get the idea across without putting something in his mouth, okay? And usually just a few applications of it really gets the job done. And if used correctly, you can do a really good job of putting a nice stop on your horse in a relatively short period of time. Now, the easy stop is not something you're going to put on a green 2-year-old. Okay, I want to make that clear right now. Usually, it's for horses 3 years old and up, or I should say, horses that have been ridden at least 6 months. Okay, after that time, they know enough where you can use the easy stop and you'll be all right. Now, I'm going to step off and show you how to adjust the easy stop because the adjustment is really important on this piece of equipment. You want to make sure that you have it right. Well, I'll go ahead and take it off on this mare so you can just kind of get a good idea of what it looks like. They all easy stops come with the main nose piece, and then the feodor here, or the throat latch, which helps you adjust the height of it. And you can see this easy stop, I'll have the camera come in close. This is the spoon part that goes underneath his jaw. Here's the shanks. And these shanks on this easy stop are only, you know, a couple inches long. They're not very long. Sometimes you can get one with longer shanks or shorter shanks. You know, you really don't need one with really long shanks. I mean, if you do, the horse that you're training just isn't suited for the job, okay? So the other thing is the nose piece is basically just a piece of lariat rope. Some of them are made out of leather, some of them are adjustable, some of them aren't. This one isn't. It's just a size that'll fit most horses that are bred for cutting and reining. If I had a really large horse and needed a larger nose piece, I'd just take the rope off, put a little bit longer piece of rope on it. But this slides over their head. You put it on just like any other piece of equipment, adjust it. Now, you want the nose piece sitting up above where the bony part of the nose goes into the cartilage. You don't want it sitting way down here, okay? You want it up about halfway from the end of his nose to his eye, okay? And it can be a little bit lower than this if you're trying to if you're like on a reining horse that I want him to really drop his nose and bridle up. I might put this a little lower. On a cutting horse like this horse, where I want them to stick their nose out in that stop and look real cowy, I'll put it up a little higher on their head. That encourages them to keep their head in a more natural position. Okay. So now I've got this on. And the way you do this throat latch, see the angle of the nose piece? The actual easy stop, the actual spoon needs to be a little lower than the part of the nose piece that goes over the horse's bridge of his nose, okay? We want a little bit of sloping action there. So I adjust that with the throat latch. So now I got that just about right. Now this throat latch has a long piece on the end of it. You don't want to let that dangle around because it could come up and hit him in the eye. You want to make a few half hitches to secure the end of this throat latch so it doesn't flip around. Okay, now we've got it set in just about right. It's about the right position on her face, about the right angle. Now we also have to have the right amount of clearance between the jaw and the easy stop. Most of the time, you want to be able to put one finger between the spoon of the easy stop and the horse's jaw. Now, it can be a little more snug than that, but you don't want it too loose, much looser than that. Otherwise, when you use the reins, the spoon is going to rotate too much and kind of dig into the end of it's going to dig into them, and we don't want that. Okay, so you want to make sure you don't have too much clearance. If you can stick 2 fingers sideways in there, that's too much clearance. Now I'm going to have the camera come in close. I don't know if we can catch this, but I'm going to raise her head up, and just so you can see how much gap is in there. And you can see it's just about, I can get about 1 finger through there, and that's just about where I want it. Okay? Okay, now on some horses, using the easy stop all by itself is just fine. On other horses, I'm going to use it with a head setter, okay? And we discussed the head setter in another section of this tape. And this is one piece of equipment where the head setter goes on over it instead of underneath it, okay? So if I was going to use a head setter with this horse doesn't really need it because her neck comes out of her shoulder real level, so there's not much problems with her raising her head up too high. But if I was going to use one, I would put the reins through the nose piece of the head setter, okay? Then bring the head setter over the top of it. Good. And then just adjust it. Just adjust it like I normally would. And with her, yeah, it can be really loose. But on most horses, I'll tighten this up a little bit. Okay, so the head setter is only going to come into play if her head goes way up out of position. Okay, and I'll just ride her with this, even though she doesn't really need it, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. The easy stop is normally used with little bumping motions or little sets and releases. Very seldom is it used with a steady pull, and you sure do not want to jerk on it. It's not designed to be jerked on. If you do, the result is too harsh on the horse. Okay, so and you know, you don't want to, this isn't for some hothead that's going to lose his temper and go to jerking his horse. This piece of equipment is designed, for a horseman that's going to keep his head and ride responsibly. Okay, now let's say I'm just going to say we'd put this horse on the horse for the first time, and I'm just going to get him used to it by just walking along and then just kind of bumping him and stopping him from the walk. And I'll just neck rein him like I normally do. You can also use 2 hands and direct rein him. Either way is fine. It really isn't designed for much of a direct rein. If I'm working a cow and I need to bring the horse's head in there, well, I'll sure use it with the direct rein then. But for the most part, it's designed to use one-handed and designed mostly to get the stop on the horse. Now, there's 2 ways to use this easy stop. And one is if you're going to be using it dry, with no cattle. If you're training a reining horse or just a riding horse and you want to put a good stop on him, we need to use a preparatory command, and we need to use our reins in a certain way to really get the message across so the horse has time to think. On a cutting horse, the cow is going to give the horse his preparatory command, so we're going to handle the reins differently. Dry, or on a reining horse, what I'm going to do is be riding my horse along. I'm going to say whoa, sit down, bump, bump, okay? And the sequence is the word whoa, sit down. See, I'm sitting on my seat pockets here? That's critical for a stop. If you're trying to stop your horse with your back arched, boy, I mean, it just is the horse just doesn't, you're giving him conflicting signals when you do that. The horse wants to feel you sit down and relax. That's a natural cue for him to sit down and stop, okay? So I'm going to trot my horse around. When it's time to stop, it's ho, bump, bump. And I've actually bumped her 3 times there. I'm not going to use one great big honking bump, okay? I'm going to go bump, 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 and each successive bump can be a little stronger than the other. See, the first bump needs to be real light, the second bump can be a little stronger, and the third bump, if you need to bump them a 3rd time, you can bump them pretty hard on that 3rd bump. What you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to ask you real light. If you don't respond, I'm going to get a little stronger, and if you don't respond to that, I'm going to get stronger still. And they'll begin to learn to just respond to the real light signal over time. Ho, bump, bump, bump. I might back her up, bump, 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 bump. Kick her a little bit, she's not responding. There we go. Whenever you're backing a horse up and they're just kind of dull on you, use your legs to ask for impulsion, okay? I'm bumping, they're not responding. Give a little kick with your legs and make them back up a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to put her into a lope. Now because I'm talking for the camera, this kind of defuses the word whoa. Normally when I'm riding them, I'm not talking so much. And when I say that W word to stop, they really drag it. But when I'm talking this much for the camera, kind of desensitizes them to that word. Oh, good. You notice I said whoa, I sat down, and I gave her actually 2 bumps. The first one was real light, and the second one was a little stronger. But when I said whoa and sat down, that gave her a chance to stop on her own. If she would have really drug it on her own, I wouldn't have even bumped her with the easy stop. Okay, now that was a decent stop, but it could be a little bit stronger. So after that stop, I'm going to bump her back. She's kind of lugging a little bit, so I'm going to kick her. There, get a little more impulsion in that stop. In that backup.